how the mixed breeds help the white man to tell the lie that ancient Kemet,
well, look,
ancient Cometian civilization was white civilization, and the race wars that took place that have created the confusion that we see today.
Okay, hold on. What that means, hold on. Here's something, this is really important. What black people have to start doing is we got to start to tell the truth about ourselves, and it's not going to always make us feel good.
That's right.
Okay? And so everything about ancient Egypt was not, you know, just beautiful and this, that, and the other. We made a lot of mistakes. And the number one mistake that we made, we did take white wives. And because we took white wives, we began to make mixed breeds. And those mixed breeds, if you read Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of Black Civilization, page 295, he's the one who talks about it best. He had the mulatto problem.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The mulatto problem. These mixed breeds would be created amongst us and how they would be used against us. You follow what I'm saying?
That's right.
And it has not changed. The ones you have to watch out for are the mulattoes. Racially, you're a double agent. You can come amongst me and say anything. Yeah, brother, I'm with you. Yeah, da 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 da. But then you also, in your mind, you know you're not going to deny half of yourself from me. I had a mulatto girlfriend who grew up in this conscious community, came up under Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. John Henry Clark. I ain't gonna name no names, but she said something that blew my mind because I knew her in the movement all of these years. And she said something to me a few months ago that blew me. She had a German father who she never knew and never met. She's a beautiful girl. But she said something that blew me away. We were sitting in my home and she said, well, I can't deny half of myself and who I am. And I'm like, you know what? I'm with you. The people who have to understand that is us. You understand what I'm saying? We have to understand that.
I just have one question, and it's not trolling.
Okay.
But do you accept mulattoes, coloreds, mixed breeds, whatever you want to call them, like the Barack Obamas and what have you? Do you accept those people as black?
Absolutely not. Do we agree or do we disagree with each other?
No, we agree on that. But here's my little anecdote or addition to that. We can still use them for our ends, just like white people did. Meaning we can still quote unquote radicalize and blackanize a mulatto and have them do the dirty work for us.
In the colonial era, a lot of times the white people did use mulattoes as a buffer class. And he's saying, why don't we use them the same way? As if we're not human beings being spoken about here. As if he's talking about moving furniture. Oh, they used to use that couch. We can use it now. They're not using it anymore.
If they can get closer to the enemy than us, and not just that, not only can we use them, we can have them thinking that they are black.
Bam. Bam. Have them thinking that they are black. They are, okay, so what we say about white people is you'll never be white. You have a drop of black in you, they'll never see you as white. That's true. You won't ever be white. But I don't want to be. Most of us don't want to be. But at least at the end of the day, we know it. They know it. We know it. They know we're not white. We know we're not white. This gentleman here said to basically lead us on, make us think we are black. Just to use us for whatever proximity we have to white people, for whatever we can get them that can help their movement. Tell us whatever it takes just to make us, yes, brother, man, I'm on board. Meanwhile, laughing behind our backs, they're not like us. But that's right, brother. Go ahead, do that dirty work. That's crazy.
And pair them up with the darkest person that we have, and then take their offspring and pair that with it, which is what white people do when they use mulattoes. So it's like we can, the mulattoes can be used. You can take a so-called mixed race person with green eyes, and if they identify as, and the classic case is Malcolm X, but it doesn't matter as long as they offsprings, they give us resources, and then we take their offsprings and marry them into an even darker person. And then within 100 years, that so-called white genetics, for the most part, will be wiped out. Is that like a concept that you guys are against, or what are your thoughts on that?
So take them, use them, breed them with a black person, and even their offspring still isn't black enough. We need to, he said, breed them with the darkest black person we have. And then you take their offspring and breed that with the darkest black person they have. And after 100 years, we'll be done got rid of that white blood. So white people are the only ones with this mindset? With the washing out and the getting rid of? No. Anybody can have these crazy mindsets. This man is literally saying part of you is disgusting will utilize you. That part of you we can use for your proximity to those white people. We're going to use it for what it's good for. And then in the next few generations, we'll just wash it out. Just get rid of it. I'm not saying it. It's coming from the horse's mouth. It ain't me. My hands are up. It's not me.
I'm totally against that. I'm totally for black people getting with other black people. I'm not for whitening out the race. So if
No, that's not.
I think he's misunderstanding him, because the guy did say you breed the mulatto with the blackest person you have, and then you breed that child, which would be, I guess, a griff, and you breed them with the blackest person they have. So he's not trying to whiten the race. Whitening it would be getting a mulatto and then having them have a child with a white person, or the mulattoes only having children with one another. It wouldn't further whiten it, but it wouldn't further blacken it either. But whitening it would have taking that mulatto and having them breed with a white person, and then have that child breed with a white person. Where are you going to get these white people from if this is a black movement? So I see what, like, clearly he's trying to blacken the mulatto's lineage, not whiten it. But I also understand what this guy's saying. He's like, we don't need to do any of that. This is a black movement for black people. I don't want to bring in other people, play with their minds, use them, make them think they're included when they're really not, just to use them. So he's making more sense. Don't use them in that way.
That's not what I mean.
brother, why are you asking me a question, and when I start speaking, you start cutting me off again?
Because you saying that you said whitening the race. That's not what I meant. I said
No, but that's what happens if I get with a mulatto. I'm not procreating with a black person.
Chapter 12, A View from the Bridge. The conflict of viewpoints on the history of the African people develops as issues in the work, and I suppose that at the present level of civilization, such as a conflict should be expected between those who represent the masters of the globe and those who are in rebellion against them as the writers of the history of the people they oppress. Invariably, there is a deeply felt need to present the dominated people as childlike creatures, inferior and by ordinance of nature, and therefore helpless without the permanent rule and guiding hand of the master race. Perhaps the highlights in the history of the blacks, which is all this work claims to be, will be even more clearly understood if I had written backwards, beginning with the present. For one thing, less documentation would be required. For by focusing on predominantly Black South Africa, Rhodesia, and the present-day Sudan, the whole world could see almost at a glance exactly what happened to Black Egypt many centuries ago. The script of the play, Whites Against Blacks, is the same. The eternal drive glorifying white bloods is the same, finding direct expression in all Caucasian-controlled social and economic systems. In South Africa, the Dutch offsprings by Black women are classified as coloreds and ranked as a separate ethnic group below the Dutch in social and economic status, but far above the Africans. Pinpoint that's an important point. In Egypt, the coloreds gradually became the majority as more and more whites came in and more Blacks moved southward. The name Egyptian was taken over by whites in their northern coloreds as applying to themselves alone. The Blacks who were the original Egyptians were no longer called Egyptians, just as the Blacks in South Africa today are no longer called South Africans. Only the whites are South Africans. Both in Egypt and South Africa, the scheme was to make the mulattoes a separate ethnic group, superior to the Blacks because of Caucasian blood, thus creating mutual hatreds that would make unity difficult, if not impossible. By giving all mulattoes privileges and opportunities denied the Blacks, the scheme worked not only in South Africa and ancient Egypt, but it was successful throughout the world and still operates in the 1970s, and it still operates today in 2025. The white man has every reason to proudly view his handiwork in managing people and pronounce it good. In the Sudan, the white Arabs are so successful that the coloreds there consider themselves Arabs, not Africans, and look down contemptuously on the Blacks in the southern Sudan, exactly the same as the Egyptian coloreds regarded this same once all-Black region centuries ago. The picture in the northern Sudan today then is exactly the same as the picture was in northern Ethiopia, after it became predominantly Afro-Asian and Afro-European.
And the picture in the southern Sudan today is the same all-black picture, southern Ethiopia, presented over 2,000 years ago. And just as their ancient forefathers battled then against the Egyptian colors, the blacks in the southern Sudan, at the very hour these lines were being written, were still arrayed in battle against the Arabs, now predominantly colored, and for the same ancient reasons. Does anyone wonder why this all-important white created color factor is skipped over by white historians? If they were scientific in their approach and objective and objective in their methods, they would deal with the mulatto role in black history, even though it was a major source of white power and the white man's most effective agent in helping to destroy black civilizations everywhere they were found. White historians would really grow in stature if they themselves wrote the story, wrote it as it was. That would never happen, of course, for they would be recording how the increased number of colors after each white invasion made it easy to credit them with all the great advances the blacks themselves had made. They, the white writers, would be telling how these half-blacks came to be classified as Caucasoids and how helpful this was in obliterating Black Egypt from the pages of history. By this master stroke, through their own sexual creations, they were able to erase the blacks as the first builders of a great civilization and deliberately rob them of that honor. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Happy Monday. Welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants. I am Joseph Ward. Continuing my reading of Chancellor Williams' book, The Destruction of Black Civilization. This is chapter 12, A View from the Bridge, the summing up. And so, as you can see in the clips and what I've read so far, we are looking at the role, we're taking a closer look rather, at the role of the mulatto or the mixed race person in African history and how the mulatto or a mixed race person played in the building up or the destruction of these African civilizations, these African empires, or even African people and movements that they've had. In the first clip, the gentleman was talking about how mulattoes are always used to represent Black people. They're always or often being put in positions of leadership, and they look Black but work white. One thing I think need to be fixed what he's saying. Yes, Chancellor Williams did talk about some of the blacks mating with the whites, mating with the Asians, mating with the Arabs, mating with the Europeans. But for the most part, the greatest problem that the blacks had was the individualism, the lack of unity, right? And that lack of unity, that individualism left us vulnerable to be invaded and attacked. And when you're left to be vulnerable, when you're left vulnerable, you are invaded and you are attacked. And the women were vulnerable. And so the women became a part of a lot of harems. Remember, we read that at least 2 videos ago about how a lot of the African women became a part of the harems. So yes, some African men did marry and have children with the Asians, the Europeans, the Arabs, but for the most part, the women were taken as booty or prisoners of war, or spoils of war, rather. They're taken as spoils of war and added to harems or used as sexual objects, even married. All the various ways that women become spoils of war. So I do want to make that point, but also to the point in the second video, what they were talking about, I don't believe our mission is to use mulattoes as like secret agents, to go against the whites. I believe from what my understanding, and I could be wrong, from what Chancellor Williams has pointed out, because a lot of this is based off of what we're reading from Chancellor Williams's book. But from my understanding, the object is to, if you are a mixed race person and you are not down with us, then we're not down with you and we're not messing with you. But if you are a mixed race person and you down with us, then we're gonna ride with you, and you will have proven through your deliberate actions, your overall actions that you are, and your continuous actions that you are down with us. And so that was my understanding, that we're not here to use anybody, but to rock with those who rock with us. That's my understanding. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Get in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong. Speaking of that, make sure you like this video, comment, subscribe, share this video. I thank you all for the love that you showed my On the Shoulders of Giants students. I appreciate all the love that y'all showed my students. That really means a lot. That means a lot to me and a lot to them. They were so excited to make the video and to share the video and to get it out. And the love that people have showed them, I appreciate. So I just want to give a shout out to my patrons, man. Real quick, Brother Eldridge McLean, Crystal J, and William Kane. I want to give a shout out to you all. Thank you all for you all continued support. You know, your support goes to the On the Shoulders of Giants School. And I want to continue showing you the different things that we are doing in this school. Hey, we starting with what we got, but we're making a big impact no matter what. And I want to give another shout out to me, Kim, for your continuous support. Thank you for all that you do for On the Shoulders of Giants. It really means a lot. Make sure I'm giving everybody they shout outs before I get back into it. Who else? Come on. Making sure. Yeah, okay, yep. Me, Kim, thank you. And who else? Yeah, that's all I can see here. So thank you everybody who continues to support. Thank you. And if you want to support, you know, the information is in the description if you want to support, and you can see it scrolling on the bottom of the screen. So let's get back into it. We're picking back up on page 313, where it says the long drawn out process. The long drawn out process by which all this was accomplished has been detailed in this work. It had to be dealt with along with other factors and forces because the inferior status of Black people throughout the world today tends to conform to the white man's doctrine that they are inferior. In fact, his whole system universally applied was designed to make them inferior and keep them so. Who then in the 20th century would believe that these same Blacks were the race that had built great cities, developed writing, the arts and sciences, when the whites of Europe were still roaming tribes of barbarian warriors? This being a well-known, though not publicized fact of history, how then explain the descent of the Blacks from the heights reached by their forefathers to the depths in which they are, for the depths in which they find themselves today? This was the central question in all of our research. Most of the important answers are given in preceding chapters. Further research, especially field research, will reveal an even more amazing story. A study of the general history of mankind reveals no people who have suffered so much in every area of life and survived. One thinks immediately of the Jews and the systematic oppression they encountered in every land, but they were not enslaved, not since the days when whites were generally enslaved everywhere, and slavery had nothing to do with race. We have seen that after the murderous revolt of the white slaves of the 13th century, white slavery ended, and thereafter the concentration was on Blacks alone. The Jews, being white and tenaciously clinging to their own heritage, were able to find escape routes not open to Blacks anywhere: business, finance, and science. They were free to study, and study they did, surpassing almost all other peoples in resulting intellectual supremacy. Learning became a second religion. They had seen that two of the certain ways to overcome their oppressors were the mastery of wealth and intellectual excellence. They therefore became moneylenders to emperors, kings, and popes. Meanwhile, the Blacks were still being hunted down and enslaved. When freed, they were kept as close to the status of slaves as such efforts could achieve. Yet today, we are just beginning to learn about the heights from which they were driven. One of the highly important things this study revealed was how the very color of Black came to mean slave, and therefore equated with bad luck, inferiority, and shame. We have dared to go beyond the limits and the guidelines set for us by the czars of history and geography to discover that ancient Ethiopia covered North Africa to the Mediterranean Sea, that Egypt was the northeastern division of that empire, and that even as late as 3100 BC, when white Asians held Lower Egypt, Ethiopians still held most of their homeland in Upper Egypt. In short, almost all of Egypt was Black as late as 3100 BC. I say as late as 3100 BC to emphasize the fact again that all this is well known to white historians concerned with Africa. They know because when the earliest Greek and Roman writers studied in the land, Egypt was still Black Egypt. They knew what history was. They knew what the history was. They left the records. Even when Herodotus arrived, Black civilization was known to be so ancient that its beginnings was lost in a distant past beyond memory. But when he arrived, he found a very mixed Ethiopian population of whites, browns, yellows, and blacks. The first three groups now drawing a line between themselves as Egyptians while giving the blacks the lowest class status along with their original name of Ethiopians. There may have been some justice in this sense. Herodotus was in Egypt. The masses of non-integrating blacks had themselves rejected both Egypt and the Egyptians' names as the Asians and Afro-Asians became the majority, and they had concentrated below a new borderline as Ethiopians in the Ethiopian Empire had no longer included Egypt.